Hello and welcome to this episode of Mutual Fund Masters. Joining me today is Swaroop Mohanty, who is the CEO at Mirai Mutual Fund. Thank you very much, Swaroop, for taking time out in these difficult times. You've been having a scorching pace of growth. A lot of your schemes have been performing really well. So my first question is, before we talk about other issues, is how are you managing to do that? What's your philosophy for this kind of growth that you're seeing?
Vivek, at the outset, thank you for having me on your show. Always a pleasure being with you. And you've seen our journey for almost the entirety of the whole thing. It's our 13th year of fund management in India. And we believe that it's a business of simplicity and continuity. And the whole objective is to keep it around that. It's a business of fund management and building products and building track record. Finally, it's a fiduciary role that we are so lucky to be entrusted upon. And the whole objective is to uphold that fiduciary role to the hilt. That's been our simple strategy in an industry which globally is practically you are tracked by the amount of money you manage, but we believe the amount of money is an outcome of how your products perform. So keep it very product centric. See that the products continue to build a consistent track record. Yes, you have to be backed by a fantastic fund management team, which I'm very happy to be saying that I am, and that makes my job very easy. Let's look at it. It's been 13 years of unblemished track record on the equity side. And as we speak, the new funds which we have launched, say 2-3 years ago, also continue in the same track of the more pedigreed funds. And what I'd also like to bring to the table is the fact that the last 3-4 years have not been very easy for the debt fund side. And yet we sit in front of you without a single credit issue on any of our portfolios. So remaining, very aware of the fact that your products will define your future is key to the business. And keeping it centric to that is what we believe in. The other thing is, to build partners with whom you can communicate very easily on your products as well as risks when they arise. And I'm very happy to say that our partners have always risen to that whenever we've talked about risks circling our products at any point of time. So together, and then you build a good communication path which is easy and communicable and more reachable to people. When you combine all of that, I'm sure you can build a good asset management company for times to come. We believe we build a good platform for ourselves, but at the same time, the underlying market is very dynamic, and one has to be aware of certain data points which crop up. One has to be very fleet-footed, and one should adapt to certain changes when they come up. And I think we are ready for those changes as and when they arise.
Swaroop, in these difficult times, what can an investor do? What can investors do? We'll talk about how their behavior has been in just a bit. But people are going through so much of difficulty, so much of misery. They obviously are concerned about their finances. This disease has taken a toll, not just in terms of lives or health, but also in terms of financial losses. What can people, or what should they be doing right now with their investments?
So I think, Vivek, you asked a very pertinent question, because it's been 1.5 years almost of us being in this kind of lockdown scenario and still having no light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, it's the virus which is ruling our lives, and we don't know when it's going to end, or if there is any medical solution to it around the corner. When you look at that environment, obviously the first objective would be to take care of your life. I think one has to be very safe and be very, very vigilant of things around you. I mean, from where it's coming, nobody knows. So the first objective is to remain safe. For people who've already gone through it, I've gone through it myself. So I'm doing my level best not to contract it the second time. Some of the myths which were like, you don't get it the second time are demolished. I know enough people who are getting it the second time. I know some people who got it the third time. So that's number one, keep yourself safe. Number two is obviously, when you are thinking about life in general, build your safety moat on your medical insurances. I would highly advocate everybody to rise up to this occasion and fill in the gaps that one has on that side of the table. Though I don't come from that industry, but I've seen that impact around all of us. So that's something which one must do. The third thing which came up to my mind when the first wave came was, do I have enough emergency funds within myself? Because as you rightly said, emergencies can come about. Build a good emergency fund around you, which is suitable to your lifestyle or what you think is right for you, which will last you a certain period of time. That time period is different for different people. I do it for a year now. I used to be 6 months. I have extended it to 1 year. The fourth month, and when you look at the overall environment, when you look at the darker side of everything, there is a brighter side to it. The brighter side is we are not able to spend on a lot of things which we would have normally spent on, which are typically the want side of our lives. So it's a great time to sit down from a finance perspective and rejig your income and expenditures statement to a level where surpluses can go up. Yes, there is a scope for your surpluses can go up because the opportunity is not there to spend. If one can make some meaningful changes in one's lives, catering more towards needs than to the wants, there is a chance for your surpluses to go up. These surpluses then one can use in a very meaningful way. I mean, for me, the first objective would be to pay off unwanted debts. I mean, that's priority number one. Once you've done that, then the other allocation that you have, which is a surplus, you can then put that forward to make your portfolio a little stronger by that additional money which you get in. Again, when you get that additional money, be very clear of your portfolio goals, and allocate it as per your portfolio need. So that's what I would do, and I've been trying to practice. I've seen some brighter sides of my surpluses being higher because of my spending pattern going down, and I'm trying to use that money judiciously.
Swaroop, how are you seeing investor behavior this time round? It seems to be dramatically different, the manner in which the markets have reacted from the first wave to what we are seeing now in the second wave, which was far more brutal compared to the first wave. But the investor behavior seems to have been very different. The market behavior seems to have been very different. How do you explain that?
Yes, Vivek, I think you got that one right. I think though the second wave has been more brutal from a life-threatening perspective than the first one, we seem to be more in awareness. We are more aware of the virus around us. I think it's a far more tracked virus. As we speak, there is a vaccine around us, which was not there in the first wave. The markets had reacted violently in the first wave. Hence, the reaction of some of the investors is understandable. But when it comes to the second wave, both the markets have been far more stable than the first time around. When it comes to all that boiling to the investor behavior, I must give a lot of credit to the SIP investors. I think they have behaved incredibly well, and they've surprised all of us. And for them, it would also be a huge learning process in the process of investing, and how and what happens when you stay the course of your investment horizon rather than watching markets. Today, they would be far higher in their conviction in their investment process than they were, say, a year back. The same cannot be said to lump sum investors, I'm afraid, because they still seem to be very momentum driven. The near-term performance practically drives investment decisions, and that I'm saying from the industry data which comes out. Not even near-term, as near as 1 year return practically defines your investment decision. Right or wrong, I don't want to comment, but that's what the behavior is, and that's not ideal, if I were to say. When it comes to equity investing, somewhere we have gone one step ahead in aligning our investment horizon to the investment horizon of the underlying asset or underlying fund. But the same cannot be said about the debt fund side. That the debt fund investor is still very fickle and is just not aligning his or her investment horizon to the underlying investment horizon. A little bit of volatility and they are gone. And that's when you reflect on the last 5-year, 10-year data of the industry, each category of funds has done justice or merit to its own category. The problem has been the investor not staying the entire course. I'm yet to find investors who are confident of investing in a particular long debt fund for 10 years. We do that on the equity side, but we don't do that on the debt side. And that's something which I'd like to see corrected in the times to come.
How important, Swaroop, is equity to an investor's portfolio? And what, according to you, should be the manner in which, for a first-time investor, to build this equity portfolio? There are so many schemes out there, so many categories out there. What's a good starting point, according to you, for an investor?
Vivek, equity is a growth asset is known to all of us, and there is enough written around you for anybody to go and Google and arrive at this conclusion. So it's a must-have for everybody's portfolio. How much you have is a factor of how much you should have is a factor of your risk profile, and that's something which you learn over a period of time. I don't think the risk profile is a static sort of thing for any individual. As you grow in your life and you grow in your investment journey, you discover your own risk profile in that entire process. So that's a constant battle between you and your portfolio composition. But the fact that equity must be a part of your portfolio is a given. When it comes to the composition of the equity portfolio, there are two parts to that composition. One is the core part of your portfolio, which is made up of your solid part, which I would say, which is made out of strong, fundamentally sound companies, which are typically the diversified funds or the large cap funds, or to a certain extent, the large and mid cap. We definitely recommend a large and mid cap fund for the core part of the portfolio. Then it comes to the satellite part of the portfolio, which is more aimed as a futuristic part of our portfolio. It's aimed at giving you that slight kicker or alpha over your the core part of the portfolio. The satellite part of your portfolio, as I said, is very futuristic in nature. It is typically formed out of themes or trends or any story or new sort of ideas which come in the market, which can give you that additional part or that slight return over your core part of the portfolio. A combination of both can give you a very, very stable portfolio. And I recommend that you handle these two parts very, very carefully. When you look at the composition for a beginner, it is very interesting at this moment, because when you start investing in equity comes with its own share of risks, and it is very important for you to understand these risks. If you don't want to go into active fund management from day one, I would definitely suggest that you buy the index, which is available in the market in the form of index funds or ETFs, and understand the broad market. Because when you buy the index, you buy the market, you understand the nuances of the market. Once you're comfortable with the nuances of the market, you take it one notch high and go into the active fund management. So that's my recommendation. We do believe that today India is in a very, very interesting situation where both a combination of active and passive can build a very good portfolio, both in the core side as well as on the satellite side.
You recently had a very successful launch of an international fund as well. And, this has been a theme gaining ground now for, I think, the last couple of years. A lot of financial planners have been recommending that in order to diversify your equity portfolio, you should look at a certain percentage in international markets as well. So can you tell us what is the idea behind investing in international markets? What kind of a proportion of a portfolio should an investor look at when investing in an international market?
Yes, Vivek, very pertinent question, because at the end of the day, investing is a journey. There is no doubt or debate that India is a growing country, and there is nothing being taken away from that when it comes to investing. But there comes a time when you have to also reflect on the fact that India as a market is just 3 or 4% of the global market capitalization. So a bulk of equity companies are housed outside India, and that's a reality. And the best part of it is, companies which are housed outside India, or the growth pattern of those companies, have very little correlation with that of India. It's a state of your economy. I mean, we are more an old economy when it comes to the growth countries or countries which have become far more developed than us. So the companies that are there in those countries are very, very different from that of our country. So a mixture of these two can enhance a portfolio. We only understand that as we grow as an investor. So the time for international investing, I feel, is come, and that is why there is merit in the story that the industry is bringing to the table. Now again, it's a new market, new investing, new way those markets function. So I would definitely advocate a bit of caution. From our side, we are very happy that we are taking the same route that I talked about in the future, in the last question, is that we've started with a passive fund, and which is the top 10 technology disruptive companies in the world, and it's the form of the FANG Plus index, and it's an equal weighted portfolio. So very simple portfolio, very powerful, 10 companies, 7.7 trillion in market cap, which is probably 3 times the size of India as a country. And when you put those 10 country companies together, what comes about is pretty staggering. And equal weighted gives everybody a chance to grow and rebalanced every quarter. So it's a very simple rule-based fund, which makes it very powerful. And to say that these companies invest enough in themselves, in their R&D, to keep them ahead of the curve and define the word disruption in itself. So we thought this would be our first fund. At the end of the day, it's a focused fund, 10 stocks. It brings with it its own share of volatility. So again, I would bring back that word caution before investing. Please assess the risk factors of this fund before allocating to this fund. But when it comes to overall international investing, it does find merit in your portfolio. You can start small. That small I leave on to the investor along with their advisor to define. I would say 5 to 10% to start with is a good way of starting. Understand the nuances of those market, and then build a subsequently a decent portfolio. And please, international investing is not just about US. International investing is about the globe. As we speak, we will have more fund houses bringing you more stories from across the globe. And we are from South Korea, and when we look at the South Koreans investing, I asked one of my colleagues, and he said that in South Korea, almost 55% of the portfolio is invested in dollar-denominated funds. So that is how they have progressed in their investing. So at this moment, we are talking about 5 to 10%, a long way ahead, but there is enough merit in investing abroad.
All right, Swaroop, we leave it there. Thank you very much for coming by and sharing your perspective with our viewers in these very difficult times. Hope you and your colleagues stay safe going forward. Thank you very much once again.